The Hero's Journey of Freemasonry. Audio version Part 6. By Jeff Morgan. Copyright The Hero's Journey of Freemasonry, 2025. Jeff Morgan, all rights reserved. This work is a personal exploration of Freemasonry's symbolic and esoteric dimensions. It is not an official publication of, nor endorsed by, any Grand Lodge, Masonic jurisdiction, or recognized Masonic authority. The views expressed are solely those of the author. Afterward, the Master Mason as the builder of the Temple of the Soul. Freemasonry as the path of inner transformation. Freemasonry is more than a fraternity, more than a moral system, and more than a collection of rituals. It is a living mystery tradition, an esoteric path of self-mastery and divine realization. At its heart, it is a journey of transformation, leading the initiate from darkness to light, from ignorance to wisdom, and from material existence to spiritual awakening. Through the progression of the degrees, the Mason moves through sacred spaces, the Lodge, the Middle Chamber, Solomon's Temple. Yet, these places are not merely physical locations or historical allegories. They represent the architecture of the soul. Each one serves as a reflection of the Mason's inner world, guiding him through progressive stages of awareness until he comes to understand his own connection to the divine mind. The Lodge, the Middle Chamber, and Solomon's Temple as inner realities. Freemasonry's sacred spaces are not external places, but spiritual states of being that correspond to the evolution of the soul. The Lodge as the soul's foundation. The Lodge represents the first step into the mysteries, where the initiate enters in darkness, blind to the greater truths of existence. As he progresses, he is gradually introduced to the light of knowledge and wisdom. It is the foundation upon which the inner temple is built, a place of learning, discipline, and preparation. This stage corresponds to the initial awakening of the soul, as described in the Upanishads, where the seeker moves from ignorance to self-awareness through contemplation and discipline. The Middle Chamber as the threshold of enlightenment. The Middle Chamber is the realm of intellectual and spiritual awakening, where the Mason begins to understand the deeper meanings behind symbols, rituals, and sacred geometry. Here, the initiate comes to grasp the true nature of consciousness, that it is not an isolated phenomenon, but part of a greater universal intelligence. This phase mirrors the Hermetic concept, as above, so below, which teaches that the patterns of the universe are reflected within the human soul. Solomon's Temple as the blueprint for the perfected soul, the ultimate allegory of balance, wisdom, and divine order. Solomon's Temple symbolizes the perfected soul. It represents the final goal of spiritual completion, yet it also serves as a reminder that the work is never truly finished. Just as the physical temple was destroyed and rebuilt, so too must the Mason constantly refine, reconstruct, and elevate his inner self. These three sacred spaces, the Lodge, the Middle Chamber, and Solomon's Temple, are not just symbolic edifices. They are states of consciousness, guiding the Mason towards self-mastery, divine unity, and the realization of his role as a builder of the great work. Freemasonry as an inward journey toward divine unity. Many enter the craft believing that Freemasonry is an external pursuit, one focused on fraternity, tradition, and social virtue. While these aspects are important, they are not its ultimate purpose. The true work of Freemasonry is internal. It is the journey of the soul towards self-realization and divine unity. The symbols, rituals, and allegories of Freemasonry act as signposts along the initiate's path, guiding him toward a profound realization that the lost word, the philosopher's stone, and the kingdom of heaven are not external objects to be found. They reside within the initiate himself. The search for light. The search for light is not just intellectual. It is the search for inner illumination, for the discovery of one's highest potential. The working tools of Masonry. The working tools of Masonry are not just physical implements. They are spiritual instruments, used to shape and refine the inner self into something worthy of divine presence. The raising of the Master Mason. The raising of the Master Mason is not just a symbolic resurrection. It is an initiation into a new way of seeing reality, an awakening to the realization that life itself is a great temple under construction. Freemasonry teaches that divine unity is not something to be sought in the afterlife or found in some external realm. It is something to be realized here and now, within the individual soul. This is the true meaning of initiation. Consciousness as the mind of God, the soul as its vessel. In the final analysis, Freemasonry is a system that seeks to awaken the initiate to the truth of consciousness itself. The search for the lost word, the pursuit of light, and the raising of the Master Mason. All of these are metaphors for the soul's journey to recognize its connection to the infinite mind of God. Consciousness as universal intelligence. Consciousness is not an individual experience. It is a fragment of the universal mind, a reflection of divine intelligence. What we call personal consciousness is merely awareness from a particular point of view, but in reality, we are all part of a singular intelligence, an eternal order that transcends time and space. The soul as the builder of the temple. The soul is the vessel that seeks to build itself in the image of divine perfection. Just as operative masons build temples, so too must the speculative mason build his soul into a fit dwelling place for truth, wisdom, and enlightenment. The realization of the Master Mason. The final realization of the Master Mason is that he is not separate from the grand architect of the universe. He is a reflection of it, a builder within it, and a participant in its eternal design. The universal wisdom of the great traditions. This realization is not unique to Freemasonry. It is a universal truth expressed in many of the world's great esoteric traditions. Vedanta. Hinduism. The Upanishads teach that the self, Atman, and the divine, Brahman, are one and the same, Tat Tvam Asi, thou art that. Enlightenment is the realization that the divine is not separate from the self, but resides within it. Hermeticism. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below, states that the patterns of the cosmos are mirrored within the individual. The Mason, in building his inner temple, reflects the cosmic order of the grand architect. Kabbalah. Gershom Scholem explains that in Kabbalistic tradition, the restoration of divine unity, Tikkun Olam, begins with the restoration of the individual soul. The rebuilding of the temple is thus both a cosmic and a personal act. Reflections. The true temple is within. The true Master Mason must come to this realization. The temple he is building is not external, it is within him. He is not merely a seeker of the divine, he is an emanation of it. The Master Mason's journey is not about reaching a final destination, but about engaging in the eternal process of self-perfection. The Lodge, the Middle Chamber, and Solomon's Temple are guideposts along this path, reminding the initiate that he himself is both the builder and the temple. As he continues the great work, the Mason understands that the search for the lost word, the ultimate truth, is an inner quest, one that leads not to something beyond himself, but to himself. In his soul, he finds the reflection of the grand architect of the universe. In the end, the temple he builds is not made of stone, but of wisdom, compassion, and truth. It is an eternal work, one that continues beyond the lodge, beyond the degrees, and beyond the limits of this life itself. Conclusion. The Mason's eternal work. The Master Mason, having journeyed through the degrees of initiation, must now apply what he has learned, not only within the lodge, but in every aspect of life. His duty is not simply to attend meetings or recite rituals. His duty is to live as a builder of the temple of the soul, shaping himself into a worthy vessel of divine wisdom. The eternal process of self-perfection. This work never ends. Just as Solomon's temple was built, destroyed, and rebuilt, so too must the Mason recognize that self-perfection is an eternal process. Every day, every thought, and every action contributes to the great work of refining the self, aligning it with truth, and bringing it closer to the divine. In the teachings of the Hermetic tradition, it is said, as above, so below, as within, so without. The work of building the temple is not only external but internal, requiring the Mason to bring his soul into harmony with divine law. Just as the outer temple was constructed according to sacred geometry, the inner temple must be built upon the foundation of virtue, wisdom, and truth. This process mirrors the alchemical magnum opus, where the base elements of the self are transmuted into spiritual gold. Carl Jung describes this transformation as individuation, the lifelong process of integrating the self with the divine archetype. The Mason, like the alchemist, seeks to refine his character until he becomes a living reflection of the grand architect of the universe. Freemasonry as a path, not a destination. Freemasonry does not offer an end, it offers a path that each initiate must walk for himself, armed with the working tools of knowledge, morality, and wisdom. The Upanishads state, the path is endless, for the self is infinite. So too is the Masonic journey, an eternal ascent toward the infinite light of divine truth. The working tools of Freemasonry are not mere symbols, they are instruments for the soul's refinement. The plum teaches the Mason to remain upright and true in his dealings with the world. The square instructs him to measure his actions by the standard of morality and justice. The compasses remind him to draw boundaries, keeping his passions within due limits. Through constant application of these tools, the Mason transforms himself into a living temple, a perfect ashlar, shaped and smoothed by the trials of life and the wisdom gained through experience. The Master Mason's greatest work, becoming the temple. The true Master Mason understands that his greatest work is still ahead of him. The search for light is an eternal quest, and the temple he seeks to build is not made of stone, but of spirit. The final realization of the Master Mason is that he is both the builder and the temple. This truth is echoed in many of the world's great wisdom traditions. In the Upanishads, it is said, "The self is the light that shines within the temple of the heart." Hermes Trismegistus taught, "Know thyself, and thou shalt know the secrets of the gods and the universe." In Kabbalistic thought, the restoration of the temple of the soul is the highest form of divine service. The final lesson of Freemasonry. Thus, the final lesson of Freemasonry is not simply that the Master Mason must build the temple, he must become it. In doing so, he fulfills the ultimate purpose of the craft. To unite the self with the divine, realizing that the grand architect resides within him. To awaken the soul to its true nature, that it is a spark of the infinite light. To live as a reflection of the grand architect of the universe, embodying the virtues of wisdom, strength, and beauty in every thought, word, and action. The true Mason is not merely one who has received the title. He is a builder of the soul, a seeker of wisdom, and a participant in the great work. His journey is eternal, leading ever toward the infinite light of the divine. In the words of Walter Leslie Wilmshurst, the real secrets of Masonry are not in the ritual, but in the awakened heart of the true Mason who knows that he himself is the temple, the living house of the Holy Spirit.